Welcome to Out of the Blue, number 13. So today is May 29th, 2013, and I would like to do this without noise pollution, but here we are at Winnemac Park, and the jets fly overhead all the time, so there's no getting away from the noise pollution. There's one there, but Winnemac Park has 5 beautiful willow trees. There's one, there's 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one is way down there a ways. The patch where I normally tape is over there, but it's not so grown as this one. This is another little piece of the park. Here's a different, that's that same sign that I linger on sometimes. Native Landscape Restoration in Progress. So this patch is a little ahead of the other patch, so I'll come over here. And it's interesting because there's purple flowers on that side and yellow flowers on that side. And a keen observer will notice the falcon over there by the fence. But we're going to take a little walk around this patch and see what we got. So today we are going to be talking about Swedenborg and Martin Gardner. Martin Gardner was a scientist and a mathematician and a writer, a debunker. He debunked a lot of pseudoscience and such. As a little aside about these planes going over, this morning in the Financial Times newspaper there was an article about aerotoxicity, which is the idea that cabin air in airplanes is bad for you, even poisonous, they said, because of the exhaust of planes. And here we have planes going over every day, all day. But what can you do about it, right? Now, we've gone all the way around. Here we have something that might be familiar to some people. Magic trick. Cube. Now, not everybody knows this, but in the book of Revelation, John describes seeing heaven as a cube. It's a curious thing. Heaven is in the shape of a cube. And like the Borg ship is a cube. Now Star Trek is, we're going to get into Star Trek in the following episodes, but Swedenborg and the Borg, is that a coincidence? I don't think so. And is it a coincidence that the Borg ship is a cube and heaven is described as a cube? Probably not. Anyway, but get back to Martin Gardner and Swedenborg. Martin Gardner had a column in the magazine The Skeptical Inquirer, And his final column was on Dr. Oz, the heart surgeon TV personality. And it was exposing Dr. Oz as a follower of Swedenborg. As if that's a bad thing, right? Well, I have a quote here from that. And it says here, now this is from the Skeptical Inquirer, Martin Gardner's column, and it says, Swedenborg's, this is Martin Gardner writing, Swedenborg's most worthless book, Life on Other Worlds, contains detailed accounts of his out-of-body travels to the 5 then-known planets. That's as far as I'm going to read, because this idea of the then-known planets is something that Martin Gardner uses elsewhere to debunk Swedenborg. Alright? So, now, but I have to comment on the fact that he calls it his most worthless book. Life on Other Planets is an amazing book, and it's one of the earliest. If you read science fiction writers, a lot of science fiction writers, especially the very earliest of science fiction writers, cite Life on Other Planets as a primary influence, because Swedenborg was writing about. Swedenborg claimed to travel to these other planets and write about them. So it's worthless as science, but as good reading, it is extremely valuable. And so he just exposes his bias when he calls it worthless. But anyway, what I wanted to say was, what I'm getting at is the fact that Martin Gardner uses the idea that Swedenborg traveled to the then known planet in our solar system, because in his day they didn't have good telescopes like we do today, and so they only thought there was 5 other planets in our solar system. And so in Swedenborg's travels, he only visited 5 planets, and he didn't discover any new planets. And so Martin Gardner uses this to debunk Swedenborg, because if he was really traveling in the solar system, he surely would have noticed that there were other planets. Very good. But now, we, speaking here, are not Swedenborgians, we are Neo-Swedenborgians, Neo-Swedenborgianism. And what Neo-Swedenborgianism says is that he wasn't actually traveling the universe, he was traveling within his own mind. And the perspective he gained, the size relationship of him to the universe remained the same. So he was still just one person, and there was still this whole vast universe. And this is supported elsewhere, because a lot of the things Swedenborg writes about are reflections of his own society and his own culture and his own time. Pretty much everything he writes about is a reflection of his own time and his own culture. Before I go on, I want to reference the dictionary 2 words which most people know, which are anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is the parts of the body, and physiology is how the body works. So, some people know that in the body, there's gold in the body. And some people know that gold crystallizes as a cube. Here's my little dog friend neighbor. So here we have a cube. Here we have a cube, and with this cube references many things. It's a dice with no dots, maybe. If you've ever read Robert Heinlein, science fiction writer, he wrote a book called Day After Tomorrow, and there's a cube that figures prominently in that. The cube figures in John's description of heaven in the Book of Revelation. The cube is the shape of the Borg ship on Star Trek. I want to just tie it up and say that Martin Gardner's debunking of Swedenborg by saying that he only saw 5 planets, and therefore what he was doing was all in his own mind. That is actually the launching point for Neo-Swedenborg. So if you say, okay, he's only in his own mind, but at the same time he wrote 50 volumes, and prior to these visions he was having, he was a successful scientist, a prominent scientist. And so he used his scientific training, and he observed what he saw. And so when you put those things together, what you have is a prominent, trained scientist traveling in his own mind and observing what he saw. And that is the beginning of Neo-Swedenborgianism, because what we're saying is Swedenborg therefore created this massive travel log of his own psyche. And we, modern people, you and I, we have our own psyches. And so the previous episode on the near-death experience, people traveled in their own experience. They traveled in their own life. And you therefore have, and I have, a similar possibility. We have our own psyches, we have our own universes within our own thoughts, feelings, experiences. So heaven may be a mental construct. It's only in your mind, they'll say. But that counts, because now it can be explored and it can be looked at, and it's the potential that we all have. So that's it for now. Martin Gardner today, and our next episode. This is number 13, so it's kind of the end of the first chapter. So 13 times 13 is 169, and 13 cubed is 2,297. So ultimately I'm looking to make 13 cubed of these things, 2,297. And this is the end of the first chapter. Thanks for following along. Correction. 13 cubed is 2,197, not 2,297, as previously stated.